In 1991, 8 people sealed themselves inside a glass world in the middle of the Arizona desert and locked the door behind them. They weren't coming out for 2 years, surviving on nothing but the food they grew themselves, the air they produced themselves, and a closed loop they had built with their own hands. The story starts in the mid-1980s with a billionaire Texas oil heir named Ed Bass. Bass had become fascinated with an experimental community called Synergia Ranch, founded by an engineer and theater director named John Allen. A community that was sometimes compared to a cult because its members lived together, put on theater together, and shared an almost utopian vision for the ecological future of the planet. Together, Bass and Allen developed an idea of staggering ambition: rebuild Earth itself, the biosphere, the entire living system of the planet in miniature, inside a small, sealed glass structure. The project was named Biosphere 2, since Earth itself was already considered Biosphere 1. Bass spent roughly $200 million of his personal fortune building a massive glass structure spanning 3.15 acres near the town of Oracle, Arizona. Inside it would be a rainforest, a desert, a savanna, a marsh, and a miniature ocean complete with a coral reef. There was also a farming area where the 8 people living inside could grow their own food. The goal was both scientific and something reaching much further. If humanity ever wanted to build colonies on Mars, someone needed to first understand, here on Earth, how a fully sealed ecosystem would actually behave. Long before Elon Musk started talking about it publicly, this was essentially the same dream, going to Mars and figuring out how to actually survive there. In September of 1991, 8 Biospherians, 4 men, 4 women, walked through the airlock of Biosphere 2 in front of camera flashes and enormous media attention, and the door sealed shut behind them. The first months felt like something out of a science fiction film. The crew woke up in the humid air of the rainforest, dove in their miniature ocean, and tried to sustain themselves on the fruits and vegetables they were growing. But small cracks were already appearing within the first few weeks. Their crops were producing far less than expected, and the crew began experiencing constant hunger. Some reports suggest they lost a significant amount of body weight over time. They eventually had to admit they were surviving on a secretly stashed bag of flour because they simply couldn't sustain themselves on what they were growing alone. And it was right at this moment, in the 6th month of the experiment, that something genuinely dangerous began happening. Something nobody understood at first. The oxygen in the air they were breathing was quietly disappearing. In a normal room, oxygen levels stay stable because that room is connected to the outside atmosphere. A door opens, ventilation runs, the air keeps refreshing itself. But Biosphere 2 was completely sealed, which meant any small imbalance building up inside had nowhere to go. It just kept accumulating, undiluted by any outside air. Month after month, the oxygen level kept falling, at a rate of roughly 140 parts per million per day, and after 16 months, it had dropped to 14.5%. The equivalent, in practical terms, not of sea level, but of breathing air at roughly 15,000 feet, the summit of a mountain, even though the crew was physically sitting at just 3,900 feet in the middle of the Arizona desert. At night, crew members would stop breathing mid-sleep, their bodies jolting them awake from the lack of oxygen. Difficulty concentrating, constant fatigue, and dizziness became a normal part of daily life. There's a real difference between living at sea level and living in mountaintop conditions, and the crew was experiencing that difference firsthand, inside a structure that was never supposed to behave like a mountain. This wasn't remotely what they had signed up for, and the experiment was drifting somewhere none of them had planned for. Scientists spent a long time unable to figure out where the missing oxygen had actually gone. Eventually, the truth came out. Biosphere 2's own concrete foundation was absorbing the oxygen produced by microorganisms and converting it into carbon dioxide, The structure was quietly swallowing its own air. 16 months into the experiment, the crew's managers were forced to pump in oxygen from outside because internal levels had dropped to a point where the crew could no longer function. This was a serious blow to the entire premise the experiment had been built on. A completely sealed, completely self-sufficient system. If you have to add outside air to keep people alive, your system, by definition, isn't self-sufficient. And it's worth being precise about the mechanism here. The concrete structure absorbing oxygen and converting it to carbon dioxide was, in the end, exactly what was driving the entire crisis from the start. At the same time, an entirely different and stranger chemical problem was unfolding. Because the roof of the structure filtered out most ultraviolet light, nitrous oxide, a gas that normally breaks down naturally in the atmosphere, began accumulating inside Biosphere 2 to dangerous levels. This was a compound capable of affecting brain function, and years later the crew still didn't fully know how much that buildup had actually dulled their mental sharpness during the mission. As if the physical problems weren't enough, the relationships within the crew itself started deteriorating fast. 8 people, trapped for 2 years inside a closed world they couldn't escape from each other in, split into deep factions. A banana cake disappeared from the refrigerator. The thief took only half and left the rest, apparently thinking nobody would notice. Eventually, they had to lock the banana storage entirely because they could no longer even trust each other. Part of the crew argued the project should focus purely on the science, while others insisted on preserving the original ecological and philosophical mission. The divide grew so deep that some crew members stopped speaking to each other almost entirely, living under the same glass, breathing the same air, but treating one another like strangers. I hope this is helping you understand the story so far. Making these videos takes me weeks of work. I'm also working on multiple projects at once, and doing all of this genuinely, entirely on my own, is a lot harder than it looks. If you'd like to support what I'm doing, you can subscribe on YouTube and like the videos. You can share my content, whether it's free or paid, comment on it, and recommend it to your friends. Because this work takes serious effort, and it isn't cheap to make either. Thank you so much for watching. Now let's get back to where we left off. Despite everything, the first crew completed their full 2 years as planned and emerged in September of 1993. One crew member later described the physical sensation of stepping outside and breathing normal air again as something close to being reborn, going from 14.5% oxygen back to a full 21%, felt like their bodies were coming back to life. But the project didn't end there, and the truly unexpected turn was only just beginning. In March of 1994, a second crew of 7 entered Biosphere 2, but by this point the project's finances had collapsed badly. Bass's company, Space Biosphere Ventures, had lost somewhere between $16 and $20 million in 1993 alone. To try to save the situation, Bass brought in a Beverly Hills investment banker, Steve Bannon. Yes, you heard that right. The very same Steve Bannon who, years later, would become the chief strategist of Donald Trump's 2016 campaign and one of the most controversial figures ever to walk the halls of the White House. The moment Bannon took control of the company, his first move was to remove the project's founder, John Allen, along with the rest of senior leadership. Those figures were pushed out in April of 1994. 2 members of the original crew, Abigail Alling and Mark Van Thillo, said they feared for the safety of the incoming crew and forced their way into Biosphere 2 early one morning, breaking the safety glass to let outside air in. Whether this was sabotage or a rescue attempt is a debate that continued for years. Bass and Bannon responded by sending United States federal marshals to Biosphere 2 and using a court order to formally remove the old leadership from the project entirely. When the second crew heard the news, their first thought was that it had to be an April Fool's joke. What followed turned into a chain of lawsuits and countersuits. The second crew tried to continue their mission, but the project was shut down early, just 5 months later. Bannon negotiated a deal handing management of Biosphere 2 over to Columbia University. The dream of establishing human settlements on Mars quietly went on the shelf overnight. The idea of testing whether humans could survive inside a fully sealed world was abandoned completely, and scientists shifted instead toward much narrower, more focused questions like how elevated carbon dioxide levels affect coral reefs. Even so, despite everything that had gone wrong, humanity had, for the first time, actually started testing the idea of a Mars colony here on Earth and gotten a small glimpse of what that might actually look like. Columbia University ran Biosphere 2 until 2003, after which the University of Arizona took over the project. In 2011, Ed Bass formally donated the facility to the University of Arizona, along with an additional $20 million to support ongoing research. Biosphere 2 still stands today, and scientific research continues inside it, no longer an experiment testing whether people can survive sealed inside it, but one of the largest closed ecosystem laboratories on Earth. Every year, thousands of tourists visit the same glass structure where 8 people once ran out of oxygen and turned on each other. So what did the scientific community actually take away from this experiment? Mark Nelson, one of the original crew members, argued years later in a book that the media had badly distorted the story, and that the real scientific findings had been buried under coverage of personal conflict. And in fairness, solving the mystery of the missing oxygen really was a genuine and valuable scientific contribution. Understanding how sealed ecosystems behave became a critical lesson for future space stations and any potential Mars colonies. But what stuck in the public's memory wasn't the science. It was a reality show version of the story. 8 people turning on each other, starving, gasping for air. Defenders of the project still argue today that most of what went wrong were actually anticipated risks that were deliberately being tested, and that the media simply put sensationalism ahead of the science. And of course, Steve Bannon's role in all of this eventually became one of the strangest footnotes in modern history. The same man who dissolved Biosphere 2 and handed its management over to a university would, years later, become one of the closest advisors to one of the most powerful political figures in the world. Nobody watching a man manage 8 people's oxygen crisis under a glass dome could have possibly predicted that he'd one day be walking the halls of the White House. It's an ending this story could never have written for itself. Biosphere 2 was a genuinely bold attempt to push the boundaries of science. But it also proved that no matter how much technology and good intention you put inside a sealed box, human nature remains the single most unpredictable variable of all. The oxygen slipped away, the crew turned on each other, and the project ended in a place nowhere close to the utopia its founders had once imagined. The greatest lessons are written not in victories, but in failures, defeats, and collapses. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.